everybody, and welcome back to the Just Hoop Show. I am your host, Jorge Larea Jr. I am joined by our co-host today, and our guest, his name is, introduce yourself, young fella.
Enrique del Risco.
All right, and today we're going to be getting into a couple of NBA topics. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about the NBA's new 75th anniversary team announced, some of our snubs, some of the surprises, some people we think maybe shouldn't have made the list. We're also going to be moving on and talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, some of the construction of their roster, their early season struggles. We're then going to be moving on to the Golden State Warriors, just how they look very, very good without Klay Thompson and how they can improve and be a surprising title contender this season. And last but not least, we'll be talking about the Miami Heat, the South Beach Bad Boys. All right, so without further ado, I first want to ask you, Enrique.
Yeah.
However you want to go. However you want to go this episode.
We're good. Let's go.
From the 75th anniversary team announced, can you tell me first, before we start getting to snubs and things, maybe some of the players that surprised you on the list that you saw and you were like, I don't think if he should be on the list. Now, this is no disrespect to the players. You could be 77, 78, 80, just not 75.
Right. Well, I mean, first I'd like to say that I don't really want to touch upon the first 50 because, it'd be really unfair for me to talk about many guys that I never really saw play. I mean, obviously, we all do our research and we watch things from back in the day, but it'd be, I can't sit here and be like, hey, Klay Thompson should be over, I don't know. Who's in it? Alex English? I don't know. Someone like that, right? Because reality is I never really saw him play. So let's focus on the next 25. And I'd say for me, someone who was a big surprise to me that was actually on the list, and you might be surprised by this one, was Anthony Davis. I mean, obviously, Anthony Davis, amazing talent. I don't know how he's over Dwight Howard. I really don't. I don't see that. Dwight Howard, I'm not his biggest fan. I don't know if you are, but I mean, who is a Dwight Howard fan, right? But as far as if you're looking at history and a player's impact on the court, Dwight Howard, if you say, hey, around maybe 2015, 2016, like right before he goes to Atlanta, if Dwight Howard doesn't play basketball around that time anymore, I mean, he's on this list. He's on the list because personality, let's be honest. And I guess the rest of his career has going. But the reality is Dwight Howard, for what he did as far as being an 8-time All-Star, I mean, he took that team, that Orlando Magic team, to the finals. What did Anthony Davis do in the Pelicans, really? And I understand a lot of times things have to do with coaches and situations. Dwight did have that team. Stan Van Gundy did really, have that team built around Dwight with shooters. And you could talk about situations every day and compare players. But if we're going to talk about impact, Anthony Davis in New Orleans had kind of no impact if you really look at it. It really went nowhere in the playoffs. And you could, talk about franchise all you want. But reality is, as of right now, I would not have put Anthony Davis on that list. What do you think about that?
Anthony Davis, very premature for him to be on that list. I do agree that I would put Dwight Howard over him. Excuse me. I like the point you brought up about Dwight Howard taking the Orlando Magic to the finals. And when it comes to the coaching situation as well, I think Stan Van Gundy and Alvin Gentry aren't like in this huge like gap between like coaches and skill or anything. They've had about the similar type of career. I don't think either of them have won a championship before, if I'm not mistaken, collegiate or NBA, as far as while they're coaching a team. But yeah, one of the biggest surprises for me, like when I was looking at this list, now one of the most legendary players, I mean, hustle on the court, off the court, stories for days. If you would have been around in social media, one of the most iconic players of all time. Now, personally, I'm trying to figure out like just how Dennis Rodman got on the list over a lot of other players. Now, just because Dennis Rodman, statistically, like you can't put him on there. I guess if you said championships, of course, accolades, yes. One of the best defensive players of all time, probably like top 5. But I just don't see like the body of his career, what he really did to earn a position there. Of course, we talked about this a little bit about this before the show. Klay Thompson over James Harden any day of the week. I mean, I don't even know why that was a thought.
Yeah.
James Harden, I think, is a better. I think James Harden is more skilled offensively, and he's such a great scorer that it makes him seem as he's better than Klay Thompson. But all around, when it comes to a complete basketball player, Klay Thompson is closer to a complete basketball player, just of how just how much better he is defensively. Not to mention the fact he's a three-time NBA champion. Regardless of the team around him, he was a contributor to that team, and he's one of the best players. And it just goes to show how great he was to still average 20 points per game throughout that entire time when Kevin Durant was on the team. I think that's something that people don't even talk about. That should be like an accomplishment within itself. Next to Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry, and you still average 20 points per game while shots are being taken away from you. So, what are your thoughts about that?
No, I mean, I agree. I agree completely. I mean, and to that point, I mean, obviously, Durant left as well, but look at the Warriors since Klay's been injured. Curry, MVP, one of the best of all time, best shooter ever. But if Klay Thompson, you just add Klay Thompson to that team, I mean, the roof, you know what I mean? As far as with James Harden is clearly a better player as far as, let's say you're starting a franchise and you need one guy to get your team to above 500. The reality is we take James Harden because you could put James Harden next to pretty much anybody as far as, a nice rim running big and you'll get there. Your team will be okay. But as far as and it's not me saying, James Harden isn't a winner because, he is, but it's about what play style gets you more results. And I think Klay Thompson is the perfect NBA player. He's the perfect guy. Think about it right now. You're building a team around, let's say, for example, LeBron James, you're the Los Angeles Lakers, right? And let's take Russell Westbrook out of the occasion for right now. Let's say the Lakers had Anthony Davis, LeBron, no Russell Westbrook, whoever is on the team. Would you rather put James Harden on that team or Klay Thompson?
Well, personally, I've always said Klay Thompson. I've said I actually when I had one of my older Instagram pages, that was one of my first posts was, "Yo, you're gonna think this is a hot take, but you're gonna see I'm right in a couple of years." Klay Thompson, you would pick to build a championship team over James Harden any day of the week. I think James Harden is better, but I think Klay Thompson is the more complete basketball player.
You okay there?
Yeah, malfunction.
James Harden got to you?
Yeah.
But no,
he drew a foul. He tried to draw a foul on me.
Did you see his interview? He's not too happy about the new rules. I mean,
yeah, of course he's not happy about the new rules.
I'm very happy about the new rules. I think it's going to make the game a lot smoother. It's going to just, especially after watching the Olympics. I don't know if you read how much of the Olympics you saw, but watching, international ball really shows you how different the officiating is and how ridiculous sometimes these shots by, players that I love, like Damian Lillard, even sometimes how they draw certain fouls. That I'm glad we're moving on from that because it's not fun basketball to watch. And the reality is James Harden has been enjoying that for the last few years. Not to say that he can't score without it. Obviously he can, but I don't know, me, it's not the type of game I like to watch. But going back to that, I think it's interesting because I agree with you. Klay Thompson on the Los Angeles Lakers would be a 10 times better player than James Harden because Klay Thompson does not need the basketball. Klay Thompson will be running around all the screens, destroying the defense. And LeBron, which is find him all the time, you put James Harden on that team and it just changes the dynamic. And I think that's something that people don't realize when they're talking about impact on players. And people usually like to go for the guys that are, flashier, the guys that are scoring the most points. And obviously Klay scores a lot, but Klay isn't the first option, right? So I think a lot of times people, when they're talking about basketball players, they tend to focus on your first options and not realize that sometimes your second option is actually better than your first option as far as what makes the team better in impact, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I truly wish Klay Thompson was on the list. I think he deserves it. Another guy that shoot me if if you don't agree with me, but Paul Pierce. maybe it's a personal thing for me. I'm not a big Paul Pierce fan. I'd rather have Klay Thompson over Paul Pierce. That's just me. I put him on that list. And let me tell you
Actually,
another one. I put Dwight
mhm.
Howard on that list before Paul Pierce. And I know that might sound crazy, but what did Paul Pierce do exactly before the big three? And I'm not saying not numbers and all these things. I'm talking again about impact. And I think players like Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett had more impact. But then again, who am I?
Well, just to if we're saying that Klay Thompson should go over James Harden, I guess to pick a different player over Paul Pierce, I'll pick a former Celtic. Well, he didn't win a championship as a Celtic, but a former Celtic, Kyrie Irving, 100%. I'll pick Kyrie Irving over Paul Pierce. One, Kyrie Irving is probably one of the top, if not the best, top 3 mid-range players of all time. Young guard, or not young, I'm sorry, small guards finishing at the rim, the best. I don't think anybody comes close. So in between the lines, there is probably not a better point guard. Outside the three-point line, of course, there's a guy that exists called Wardell Stephen Curry. But like in between the lines, there really isn't a better scoring point guard. And he just went in one of his best seasons of all time, shooting 50, 40, 90 in a season. He took games off and saged and did, despite everything he did, he balled out.
Yeah.
So I think Kyrie Irving in his career in total is better than Paul Pierce's, even though Kyrie's story isn't done yet, and he can still win more championships. So Kyrie's one I would put over Paul Pierce. What do you think about that?
Yes. I'd say yes. Another one, something you didn't mention that has to be said. Kyrie is probably easily the best handler in the league. Like nobody has the handles that Kyrie Irving has. And we're talking about a league where we have players like Steph Curry, and we got those handles. But Kyrie's handles are something out of this world.
True, but to that, I would say if we're gonna say James Harden's play style doesn't win games, I would say ball handling doesn't win games.
No, I agree.
Which is the only reason I didn't mention that. I mean, not to say you're right, 100% right. Yeah. I'm just saying I didn't mention it because it's like flashy, like it doesn't categorize as the impact why he deserves to be on the list. But 100%, it just goes more to why he should be because he's one of the best seven. He's probably one of the best.
I think Kyrie.
Of all time.
It's unfortunate because I think Kyrie. Say what you want. If Kyrie wasn't as problematic, and when I say that, I don't mean doesn't matter the issue. But if you look back at Cleveland, then Boston, now Brooklyn, whether he's in the right or in the wrong, that's not what I'm getting at here. My point is, there's been problems. I think that if that were the issue, Kyrie would probably be on this list. Because Kyrie Irving, I mean, look back at that team in 2016 for the Cavs. I mean, he was incredible. Look at the finals. I mean, Kyrie definitely has a big impact on the court. And yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Paul Pierce, wore one number, 34?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, listen. Take his 34 top plays. None of them top Kyrie Irving's shot in Golden State in Game 7. Yo, can we stop this? Okay, listen. Now we're getting disrespectful. We're getting disrespectful with jokes.
We're gonna get a cease and desist from Paul Pierce's reps.
Yeah, hey, Paul, we love you, man. Yeah, but you shouldn't. You should be like top 80. No lie.
You don't want me to get into Paul Pierce's
Actually, you know what? We have to be fair here. If we're gonna call out Paul Pierce, I think there's a name that you have to call out here. Actually, I think there's 2 names to call out.
Go for it.
3. Reggie Miller, Steve Nash, and Carmelo Anthony.
Okay. What I would say to those names and how that's different is let's look at Steve Nash. Steve Nash redefined an era of basketball. Like, I think that's impact. like I know we talk a lot about impact as far as winning, but I think another form of impact is your impact to the game and how you change the game. And I think that Steve Nash truly changed, rather improved actually, a form of the point guard position and how players like Steph Curry play today. And I think his impact was. I mean, I understand you. It's obviously subjective, and you could say he's not on the list. But I would say, as far as if we're comparing it to Paul Pierce wasn't a revolutionary player. Steve Nash, I would say, definitely impacted in a different level. And sorry, what was the other name you mentioned?
Uh, wow, how did I lose him? Hold up. Carmelo Anthony, and there was one more. Reggie Miller.
Okay, Reggie for the time. I could be wrong, and you stop me right now, but I think for the time, Reggie's style of basketball and 3-point shooting was not the norm, and he was an impact as far as how basketball changed around that way as well. One of the first like teams that are just or player rather that was just very focused on just popping threes. And I mean, well, obviously that wasn't just his game; he had a great mid range game as well. But again, these are guys like I guess guys like that, like a Carmelo Anthony, a Reggie Miller, are guys that you can just sort of like flip a coin and be like, all right, so can we just throw in Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter instead of those guys? You know what I mean? Like I accept them being in the list, but I can also hear you an argument for someone like Tracy McGrady or Vince Carter, for example.
But I would ask, what would like a Melo have done to make this list? Now, I'm a fan of Melo. I'm a huge fan of Melo, but I
No,
mean,
I mean I agree with you.
there's
No,
a
like
lot of players that have accolades. Like
all right.
Vince Carter was no doubt one of the most impactful players of all time. Like I think Reggie Miller's threes were one thing, and Vince Carter dunks were like a whole different level. Uh, I don't know where the NBA would be without Vince Carter dunks. Tracy McGrady, he got injured, so
Well,
he
actually,
didn't get to.
now that you mention it, I mean you're right. I mean you could look at the list and everything we said about James Harden. We could look at the list and say, actually, James Harden deserves to be on the list more than Carmelo Anthony. As far as
Yeah, that's fine. That's a fair assessment. I think that's a fair assessment. I think Harden made the finals before. I know he was a six man, but he was one of the best. Harden was one of the best six man ever. Like for a
yeah,
short period of time, and then transitioned to one of the best starters in the league within a span of 3 years. The years he
yeah.
got the year he played in the finals, the first year in Houston, and the second year in Houston. The just leaps that showed you just like how great he was. So like again, no knock at James. I mean, Klay Thompson just those three rings, and then Dwight Howard and all those accolades. The defensive accolades, which I think isn't rewarded as much. On this list though, I do like that there's a lot of like great defensive players. You have Walt Frazier is on here. I see Gary Payton is on here. Kawhi Leonard. I wasn't even surprised Kawhi Leonard made the list simply because of the San Antonio and the Toronto runs by
Mm-hmm.
itself.
I mean, if you look at
Uh,
the list, if I'm not mistaken, the first 50 are there.
I don't think
They
these are
kept
top.
it the same.
What about what? This one's an interesting one, and somebody brought this up. I thought this was. I had an argument about this. Damian Lillard. No, it doesn't do it for me. I don't. I don't see the argument for Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has zero accolades, like zero award. And I understand like it's not all about awards, and he's
Yeah.
playing in a very very tough era. But because people need to realize like Damian Lillard is a really good basketball player. Stephen Curry is just that much better of a basketball player than Damian Lillard. And that's just something we don't talk about. Like the gap between Curry and everybody else in the league. And I think even more than Damian Lillard, how does Damian Lillard make it not Kyrie Irving? What?
I think it's interesting because we get into this sort of topics, and I think it's hard because I keep going back to what we started with Anthony Davis, and I think it's interesting because someone like Anthony Davis, you could say, hey, he had no accomplishments as far as getting to deep in the playoffs and all these things, and you look at someone like Damian Lillard, right? And you say, well, what about Damian Lillard? And I think it's fair to pose that question, but I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same because when you look at a situation like Anthony Davis, okay, I could be wrong. Maybe you could pull up the stat, but I believe they went to the Western Conference Final once, or I'm sorry, they went to the semifinals, right? That's as far as they went,
That's as far as they
and it
went.
was against the Warriors, and that was actually a really good playoff series. I think, how do I put this? I think the West, in the time that both Anthony Davis and Damian Lillard have been around, I think the West has been incredibly tough to get out of. But I think Damian has had a more of an impact, especially the team. If you look at how far they've gone in the playoffs, and then consistently too, consistently. And when you watch the games, what Dame is doing on the court, you know. Um, but again, totally subjective. I get your point. I think it's difficult because then you say, for example, who would you have on the list? You're saying, for example, let's say we have Klay Thompson over Damian Lillard on this list for you, right?
Mhm.
Who else?
Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard.
What comes to mind? Chris Paul is already on the list.
Hey, you know what?
Dude,
This might be a homer pick, but someone who needs to be looked at a little bit more. And I get it, but Chris Bosh.
I was about to say, Chris Bosh is a three-time champ. No,
The
two-time
fact
champ.
that the fact that Chris Bosh isn't even mentioned amongst the snubs, it sucks because Chris Bosh had a great career.
Chris Bosh was sorry for cutting off. Chris Bosh right now in the NBA. Here's what I think people don't understand. You get older, you get smarter with your game, right? I think we can agree with that. Most players do when they mature the game. Chris Bosh's game was ready for this era.
Oh, 100%.
Chris Bosh could have finished his contract in Miami, possibly like had finished another All-Star or two, and then gone, bro, formed a super team with the Warriors or gone to the Rock. Remember when the Rockets tried to get him? Yeah. That's why. Daryl Morey had his eyes on him like way before. So, credit to Daryl Morey real quick.
No, but look at it's crazy. I think Chris Bosh, if you look at today's basketball, today's NBA, you look at guys like Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, maybe even Anthony Davis to a certain extent. But if you look at these guys, Chris Bosh was doing this back. I mean, the Miami Heat's big three was revolutionary. Mainly, I mean, obviously LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, but a big factor was Chris Bosh because you could play small, quote unquote, right? Which is what then the Warriors took over with and perfected, you would say, with Draymond Green. I think Chris Bosh had a big impact in this game as a big who could really shoot like that and know his role. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people have egos and it's hard, as we all do, right? I think it's hard to do what he did. And Chris Bosh should have easily been scoring 25 a night. But, there was many nights where he scored 10 points, but it was impactful, man. And Chris Bosh will always be one of my all-time favorite players. So.
All right. Last thing on this list, just wanted to ask you a question, your opinion. I thought about this. Giannis Antetokounmpo, considering his resume,
on the list.
considering how many, considering his career, his accolades, I've thought about this. I've compared it to all the players that are on here. He deserves to be on here. He's probably top 10 most deserving on this list. Considering what he's done in his career in the short span. Like, out of everybody, he's like top 10. Maybe I would accept top 20 most deserving on this to be on this list because, the two-time defensive player of the year. Two-time defensive player of the year, two-time MVP, champion, finals MVP. I mean, he's got every accolade in the book, and he's, only 27, right? 27, 28?
I think so.
Something like that.
Giannis is one of those guys that, for me in particular, has grown on me a lot as far as his game. Because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a Giannis believer maybe like 2 years ago. Obviously a great player, but when you're talking about on the floor and how that can result into winning, I wasn't sure because, with no shooting, but man, he just had like a switch last year and it just changed everything. This man, the dominance. I mean, you look back at videos of Shaq and you look at Giannis, not comparing the two players whatsoever, but I'm talking about as far as like that look, that look of I'm gonna destroy you. You're in my path, and I will dunk on you, and I don't care how tall, how strong you are. I think that the fact that Giannis shoots an air ball and then goes back and takes the same shot from the same position, that shows you everything you need to know about this guy. He is fearless. He does not care. And those are the guys, because you know what? Look at Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, not to say that he could be that guy, but Ben Simmons, and it could be whatever it is, mental, whatever you want to talk about. But Ben Simmons won't be that guy. He's not that guy. He won't take a shot and then take it again. And that shows you the different types of players right there, and why Giannis is so successful, because even a guy like Giannis, who realistically, maybe even a year or two ago, could not really shoot more than 20-something% from the three, right? Now, if you watched opening night against Brooklyn, I mean, that guy just came back from an injury, just won a championship, and you're like, okay, maybe they're going to slow down. Maybe they're going to be like, we're gonna just go get this 1 seed, 2, 3 seed, and just go again for the championship. No, they came back and they said, we're destroying this league, and especially their leader, Giannis. And that's what I love about that guy. And I agree with you 100%. I think Giannis, as the years go along, will keep climbing on our list of best players. Because like you said, the guy's 27. He's already done this much. There's still way more to go. And one little thing that I see, if I had to put money on it, I would. Don't be surprised in the next few years, Greece beats Team USA for gold. Because Giannis is that type of guy who could take his entire Greek team and just destroy the United States by himself, because he's that type of guy. He's that type of player. He has that type of heart, and I love him for it.
I appreciate that. That sounds like nobody's gonna be Team USA. But hey, look, listen, you can.
All right, Homer.
Hey, everything is subjective. Everything is subjective, right? You can say that. That's your opinion.
Hey, man, I don't know, man. I truly believe that the Luka had a shot.
Yo, hey, Luke.
Hey, I'm just listen. Luka and Zoran.
Luka is that guy. But moving on, we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, their little early season struggles. Jose, you had some things you wanted to say about the Los Angeles Lakers that you wanted to say for the episode. Can you go ahead and unload on, the beautiful La La Land boys?
Here we go. So the Lakers suck. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So the Los Angeles Lakers, one thing I do not understand with that team, and I have not understood for the last few years, and you can, stop me if you think I'm wrong, but why do they keep getting guys that can't shoot? Why do they keep pairing LeBron James with people who can't shoot or with rim runners? Not with rim runners. Obviously, you want a rim runner like Dwight Howard, and that's perfect. But what bothers me, if I were a Laker fan, what bothers me is Anthony Davis does not want to play center, which I guess I get it. But in today's NBA, Anthony Davis should be playing center for that team. He just needs to be. But on top of the fact that you have to start DeAndre Jordan or Dwight Howard at the center position so Anthony Davis can be okay with that. And now you have a front court of LeBron, Anthony Davis, and DeAndre Jordan. And LeBron James is your best three-point shooter. What are you doing there? All right, first of all. And then you're telling me you're going to add to that Russell Westbrook, the guy known for not being able to hit a three if he's open from 20. Like, I do not understand that. And then on top of that, why are you starting Kent Bazemore? I like Bazemore, okay? But why aren't you starting someone like Wayne Ellington or Malik Monk? I guess Malik Monk, the argument could be said, oh, you want him as your plug, sort of like your, maybe your sixth man. I get it. But then someone like Ellington, or I don't know if they're going to start Kendrick Nunn when he comes back, because that would even be a big help for them. But they need to have shooters around LeBron. And you can argue and say, oh, what about Carmelo? Carmelo isn't that. Not anymore. Carmelo, you can't rely on Melo hitting open shots all the time. But I don't know. I just don't see how this team. I think no doubt on LeBron. LeBron to the end of days until LeBron is 47, 48, or whatever. I will always believe in LeBron James. I don't care. I'm not one of those saying, "Oh, they're old." I don't care. Age doesn't matter to me, especially in today's NBA. That's not the point. I just don't understand why they don't like. Look, say whatever you want. I'd rather have KCP, Kuzma on that team than I would Russell Westbrook. Mind you, do you remember the trade the Lakers had with Sacramento that fell apart in the last second for Buddy Hield?
Yes.
If the Lakers would have had that trade rather than the Russell Westbrook trade, they'd be a 10 times better team right now. And again, this goes back to what we're talking about players. I'm not here sitting down telling you Buddy Hield is a better player than Russell Westbrook. I'm not saying that. I'm saying certain players have different impacts on different teams. Russell Westbrook is the guy you give the ball to. Russell Westbrook isn't the guy who stands in the corner or in the wing or runs around screens to get open for a three. Because what happens is LeBron James, if you watch the first couple of games, LeBron James is cutting to the basket. He's kicking it out to Russell Westbrook in the corner. And then Russell Westbrook is pump faking with no defender. And then he's driving to the basket. But guess who's in the basket? DeAndre Jordan and Anthony Davis. So there's no space. There's just no space. They're going to have to fix that. Listen, again, this is me speaking at the moment. I do believe they will fix it at some point, whether it's with some sort of trade, whether it's with, changing of the lineup. Coach might do some of the things that I mentioned, whether it's starting, other shooters. Anthony Davis might have to just suck it up and play center. But, I mean, if you've seen the last couple of games, that's been one of their main issues. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Westbrook isn't playing well. That's not his role. You can't have Russell Westbrook on your team for him to be a role playing spotting shooter or something like that. That's just not it. You're actually going to be playing 4-on-5 if you do that. So I don't know. I don't know if I truly believe in, as it is right now, as they're playing. I don't believe in that team. I believe more in a team like Phoenix, who people are sleeping on still, even though, I mean, they were just there. They have all the right ingredients to get there again. Someone like DeAndre Ayton, who just got, completely disrespected by not getting that max extension. He deserves it. He's one of the main reasons why they beat the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic. He's a great defender. He complements Book and CP perfectly in that team. The Suns are my number one team to make it out of the West because they deserve that respect. They were just there. And behind them, I actually have the Warriors before I even have the Lakers. And everyone's penciling in the Lakers. I don't know why. What do you think?
I think the Lakers have probably the best depth in the league. They have the most dynamic trio. I think it's going to take a while for you to take somebody like Russell Westbrook, change his play style. Ultimately, I think they'll work it out with Russell Westbrook. I think they definitely will have to make some type of I don't even know if trades, because you can really only trade for more minimum players unless you're going to trade like a Taylor Horton Tucker or something like that.
Trade Russell Westbrook for John Wall. That'd be great. If they did that, that'd just be 2 NBA.
That'd be hilarious. But no, I think that what they'll do is they'll move forward with what they got going right now. I think until halfway through the season. I think it's only been 2 games. It's way too early to start freaking out. Yes, I think Russell Westbrook.
Isn't that the title of this pod? Way too early. I mean, isn't that what we're doing? We got to just overreact to 1 or 2 games. The Heat are winning the championship, and the Lakers are missing the playoffs. That's what we got so far, right?
But I think Russell Westbrook has some turnover woes. He has to go look in the mirror and talk to and figure out. I think clearly he's in a system he just quite doesn't understand yet. His role, he doesn't understand. I don't really know what his role was supposed to be in the first place, other than really become a sort of like Tyler Hero minus shooting threes. What's crazy? Russell Westbrook doesn't think about how many times have you seen Russell Westbrook put up a floater?
That's a good point. You're
What?
onto something.
What?
You're onto
What the
something.
fuck? Excuse my French. What the fuck? Why does Russell Westbrook not use floaters?
That's a good
What
point.
in the like? Yo, let me get in my Ohio bag in real quick. What in the heavens is going on? Dude, Russell Westbrook is one of the best
What?
slashers in the league. If he went for just straight mid ranges and floaters like Tyler Hero and Devin Booker, he'd be fine. That's they literally their number one point of emphasis in scoring is in between like screens, in between that free throw painted area. So mid-range shots and floaters should be what Russell Westbrook is looking for. Instead, I feel like he's trying to force his way into the team and force involving his teammates. He doesn't want to be like. I feel like that Los Angeles pressure is getting to him, where it's almost like he's trying to show everybody, yo, I'm not like the hero. Like I'm gonna try to give the ball to everybody. The thing is, like, I don't think Russell Westbrook realized that he doesn't have to give it to everybody, literally, just everybody on his team, not everybody on the other team too. And I think that's the mistake right now.
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, don't make the adjustments. Malik Monk is literally gonna get used to this team at some point and start like averaging 20 off the bench. It's gonna happen very, very soon. This team is gonna mold perfectly. Like you said, they do have shooters. They just
Can
don't
you
have
hear
them on
that?
the
I
court.
apologize. Can you hear that?
No, I do not hear that.
Oh, we got a dog howling outside. I thought I was just coming through. But all right, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, they must be hunting you down.
Oh, my takes
but
my takes are too bad. They got
but
me.
no, in all seriousness, the Lakers should be fine. They do have a couple of shooters. Again, you know what though? You did bring up a good point. I don't want to disrespect the guy, but dude, Ken Bazemore definitely should be coming off the bench. What? Oh wait, Taylor Horton Tucker's injured, bro. Taylor Horton Tucker's gonna start. Come on, man. Taylor Horton Tucker is that guy, by the way. I really like him. He's a really good player. I don't think people have factored in just his growth over time.
Yeah.
And what better guy for your small forward to learn from than LeBron fucking James, So
Listen,
the
I'm
Lake
so surprised the Lakers were able to get Malik Monk. It's incredible that they have Malik Monk on that roster.
bro,
And
really?
if T, I mean, go ahead.
How do you okay? You think that was hard, bro? Easy. Hey Malik, listen, man. Minimum, bro. No, no, no. See, I'm worth a lot more. LeBron just took his ring out. You're worth a lot more than what? And then he's like, you know what, man? Let me take the money. That's why they
So,
all took
you know what it
1 year
was?
deals.
I'm gonna be honest though. I think what it was LeBron said, "Hey, you're invited to next Taco Tuesday. I sealed the deal."
Here's what I think. Here's what makes sense. Everybody else is signed to a 1 year deal. Why would the Los Angeles Lakers? There's no way they traded for Russell Westbrook without knowing that they would take up all their money. So this is what I think. They traded for Russell Westbrook and they're going to experiment with it this year. If it completely goes to shambles and it doesn't work, Russell Westbrook will be traded and that will open up all the cap in the world. If it does work, then we'll continue to bring guys back on minimum deals with the simple, look how the three of us are, look how good we are, we're better than the Brooklyn Nets, and we can win championships. Now, if it doesn't work, you trade Russell Westbrook. It's pretty easy. That's what I think. That's why everybody's on a 1 year deal. Other than that, I don't know. Like, I doubt Malik Monk's gonna keep taking $1 million.
No, I
Malik
mean, I think
Monk's
Malik Monk is
25
gonna.
years old, dude.
I think a guy like
$1
Malik Monk
million
goes to that
dollars.
team. Yeah, no, I think a guy like Malik Monk goes to that team because he sees, he'll get scouted again. He'll, have a good role on that team and then get a nice, $10 to $15 million contract in New York, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. By the way, Malik Monk would be the perfect New York Knick. He should have been a New York Knick back in the day. They should have drafted him. They ended up. Who did they go for? I think they ended up going with Frank Ntilikina. They skipped out on Monk.
Go.
But yeah, I mean, I think teams like you're right. Teams like the Lakers and the Nets, you have to give those teams the benefit of the doubt. Really, those teams could be 1-10 at the beginning of the season, and you could still say they're going to win the championship. And you could be right, you could be wrong, but you're right. If THT is starting, then you have that rotation of Kendrick, Malik Monk, Melo, something like that. I mean, that team is deep. You're right. That team is deep, and if all their guys are rolling, they're rolling. And that's the thing. It's one of the. I think that team to me is one of the the biggest highs and lows. Because they could break down easily, Anthony Davis could break down, LeBron James could break down. Um, but at the same time, they have the talent. So
Well, the Lakers, I feel like they'll figure it out eventually at some point during this season. But moving on to the next topic, as I'm looking at our topic list, we're going to be talking about, as we talked about before, and we've talked about extensively, one of their players, the Golden State Warriors, their chances of being title contenders. Now, the Golden State Warriors coming into this season were my dark horse. I'm a big fan of Moses Moody. He's the second player they drafted in the first
yeah,
round. They also drafted Jonathan Kuminga, who I wasn't too familiar with, but he's also a very good and solid
had a
player.
really good summer league there in preseason.
Yeah, they both had really good preseasons. They also might be traded, so that also gives the Warriors a piece to trade. Draymond Green could possibly traded. James Wiseman as well, who had a really up and down year. But I think all in all, the Golden State Warriors have one guy named Stephen Curry and another guy named Klay Thompson. They're the greatest shooting backcourt of all time. That will never change, no matter how many years the league passes or whatnot.
Yeah,
Those guys will go down in history. I think they're too much for defenses. I think so. Here's the way I look at it. We've seen Stephen Curry put up pretty much an MVP campaign last year. Now add Klay Thompson. What the are you going to do? Absolutely nothing. And then you add the rest of the ingredient, James Wiseman. He starts to figure out his role. Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga start settling in. You have Andrew Wiggins, who can be traded.
that's the guy. I'm telling you that. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, listen, that's the guy, and I think that's the biggest X factor that team has with Klay back. I think Andrew Wiggins has, for me at least, has really changed his perception. Really, for me, I remember when that trade first happened, D'Angelo Russell for Wiggins. I thought the Warriors were getting the bad end of that trade, but looking at it today, that was a really good trade. It was a really good trade. They ended up getting, I believe, Moody was the guy they ended up getting because of that trade for that pick, if I'm not mistaken, or Kuminga, one of the two. And the fact that they have Wiggins, a guy who can easily play next to Klay and Steph, and he's doing it pretty good job, at it. And to that point you were mentioning, if a superstar, let's say hypothetically here, right? This won't happen, but this is hypothetical. Joel Embiid, right? Any superstar, let's say Joel Embiid, were to become available, right? What team in the NBA right now has better assets to throw at any team than the Golden State Warriors? I mean, you mentioned half of those assets. I mean, you're talking about Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman, Wiggins because of the contract and the fact that he's a decent player you're still going to keep afloat. Green has a big contract that you can move on from as well. I mean, you're talking like, you can have some guys like Jordan Poole, for example. That team could easily make some great offers for some great players. And speaking of offers for players, and on the topic of Warriors, what do you think of the idea of the Golden State Warriors getting Ben Simmons?
I wrote a piece earlier in the year, early in the summer, about Ben Simmons being traded possibly to the Golden State Warriors. I believe they would have to keep Draymond Green. So that means you're probably going to trade a bunch of the, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Wiseman, all of the young players for a Ben Simmons.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think again, in the summer, maybe. Now, man, I'm telling you, that situation is crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Simmons is traded for, I don't know, Moody. I think and that's it. Like I'm telling you, I don't understand what leverage they have. They don't have leverage. I don't see it.
I think they do have leverage. I think at the end of the day, one thing that won't change is Ben Simmons might be scared to shoot, but he's still one of the top two best defenders in the league behind Bam Adebayo.
No, I agree, but I'm saying as a team, how do you have leverage to ask for anything? Because yes, as a team, you might want, at the end of the day, you might want a player and you might believe in that player, but the market represents something else. And the market for Ben Simmons isn't there. I mean, any team right now would take Ben Simmons. Well, not any, but mostly any team right now would take Ben Simmons, but for what price? And I think if you look at the Golden State Warriors and you tell them, hey, you'd have to lose 3 of your assets for Ben Simmons, they'd say no. Because it's
So I'd say this: Ben Simmons would be a good fit on the Warriors. I think they push him. It would help a lot, especially going into like a series versus the Los Angeles Lakers, where there's bigs like a Dwight Howard, like Anthony Davis. Ben Simmons could be versatile in switching on the bigs, switching and defending the guards, switching to like he could guard LeBron James and then go switch to the post to Anthony Davis. So on top of that, this is why I do think that they need to trade the young assets. I think it doesn't work if they don't have Draymond Green. Now, think of it like this. Klay Thompson, Wiggins has become a really, really good defender. Draymond Green, Simmons, all on the floor defensively. And then Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson doing all the scoring. You don't have to worry about absolutely a thing. But I would actually argue that the team, the way it's constructed as is, would be better. The only thing I could think of is Damian Lillard. And I'm not giving up Klay Thompson or Stephen Curry. But whatever you want to go get Damian Lillard would be the only thing if I'm the Golden State Warriors. I feel like they have the depth. They have young players that will make mistakes. But I think, like, here's an argument. People will be like, oh, but Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga can be traded for like a veteran. Yeah, but Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody aren't going to be on the floor in those crucial, like, Los Angeles Lakers finals games or, Western Conference finals games, 6 and 7 or, semifinals. Like, they're not going to be in those crucial moments. So we don't have to worry about them making those rookie mistakes. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because this team has the starting lineup set. Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Draymond Green, James Wiseman. And Wiseman, I'm not really worried about him. His struggles is really just adjusting to the game. Defensively, that's one thing he's definitely got to work on. But I think they're a sleeper in the West. I think they're the dark horse. They might win the West if people don't start paying attention to how to stop Stephen Curry, because not only do you have to stop Stephen Curry, now you're going to have to stop Stephen Curry swinging it to Klay Thompson, which is going to be a whole new headache for the league to deal with. And they're going to be at I feel like a higher level defensively now with Thompson and Wiggins being able, I think.
Yeah, that's some good defense right there. That's a good wing defense right there.
Thompson can now do what he used to do before, which was take the elite point guards. That's something people don't talk about. Curry now resting on defense even more. I mean, there's just so much shit. We'll talk about it like how players impact and other players. We'll talk about it with the Miami Heat. But Klay Thompson is a perfect example of just how much stress he's going to take off everybody else. Even Wiggins is going to get a lot of shots. More shots open. Even Draymond Green, he should start hitting the gym and start hitting some shots because he's going to get a lot of them open or getting a lot of rim runs. James Wiseman as well should work on his jumper because this team's going to be able to get a lot of shots, especially with those two on the floor, and they're going to be able to make a lot of stops. This is going to be a very dangerous team come playoff time. And in the 7-game series in the Western Conference Finals, if there's any team, like you gun to my head, I'm taking the Golden State Warriors. Fully healthy. I'm taking the Golden State Warriors.
Hey, we're agreeing on something. I agree with you on that.
All right. So I think we talked about the Warriors good enough. Let's move on to the South Beach Bad Boys. Okay. So the Miami Heat are 1-1 this season. I just want to start off by saying we're 1-0. We're undefeated. We're 1 and missing Kyle Lowry. Before we get into anything, I do want to say I believe that the Miami Heat are absolutely helpless if they do not find themselves a backup playmaking point guard like Kyle Lowry to control the floor. Because if Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero have to take all the pressure, this team folds. They cannot run an offense. Unfortunately, we have tried this experiment for many years. It does not work. Jimmy Butler is a fantastic player. He's a superstar, no doubt about it. He's not a floor general, and neither is Tyler Hero. So that's why Kyle Lowry is super important. I think we need a backup point guard to be a playmaker. I'd go to Europe and call up Milo Teodosic. And I'm not even kidding. As a matter of fact, I'd take TJ McConnell right now, bro. Like, I'd take any floor general you can find. Monte Morris from the Denver Nuggets. I'll take any floor general right now to control the offense for the bench.
Well, I got you. That's a good point. First of all, to your point of it's an experiment that didn't work. I will say they did make it to the NBA Finals, and they did have great success with the style of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo running the offense. But I do agree that it does not ultimately succeed because of the fact that it's not that these guys can't do it, but rather that it's putting too much load on them. On top of that, and also you expecting them to score. So I agree. I mean, you look at the first game on defense, for example, Butler did not have to guard the point guard. Butler was able to just play defense and get steals and run and get those easy scores. Butler was able to move around. Bam was able to just move around without having to worry about getting the ball in his hands. That was Kyle. Kyle was advancing the ball. I agree with you. What I will say to that is, and listen, this is a big experiment here. This is a big X factor for the Miami Heat, and it could be bad, but it could also be really good. And that answer that you're looking for might be on the roster right now. His name is Victor Oladipo.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit is right. Listen.
Oh, shit. No.
If Victor Oladipo, because Victor is a really good floor general. He could run an offense. If Victor takes that reign next to Tyler is the scorer. Victor sets up team, not only offensively, but defensively, a point of attack defender, somebody who could really focus on that. Victor Oladipo, you really, it changes the team. I think that, if you're looking at the Indiana game, that wasn't the best, way to look at that game. It was a weird game. I get what you're saying, and maybe they should, hopefully they can get a buyout guy, coming in the buyout market that can they can take over point guard duties if necessary. But I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world, as far as like yes, you're right. If we're in the playoffs and Lowry's not playing, it's a big deal. But I'm saying as far as the season goes, I think they'll figure it out. I think it's not that bad. But you do have a point. You do have a point. And I don't know how you feel about Victor, but we don't know what we're going to get out of him. But if we get something out of him, I think it'll be a big difference to the Miami Heat.
Look, Victor Oladipo is a great player, and he's a great point guard, and I think he can run the floor. But here's the thing, bro. Kyle Lowry has set an absolute precedent for what the fuck I expect now. Why? Here's why. Jimmy Butler is great. You know why I hate Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero running the offense? Because they turn the ball over so much. And you know what? They're professionals. I never made the NBA. I never made the high school team, so I can't talk shit. But, bro, some of the mistakes they make are like the simple mistakes and are little things at points in the game. And in crucial moments, too, they just don't have that decision-making. And I like Kyle Lowry a lot. And I like Kyle Lowry because of what he does. What he's going to do is he's going to come in and he's going to score the basketball if he gets the opportunity. But what Kyle Lowry is looking to do is put you in the right spot at the right time. I don't need an exact Kyle Lowry. I need somebody to come off the bench and do just that. I need somebody that comes on and takes the pressure off of Tyler Hero, so Tyler Hero doesn't have to look like Julian Newman out there taking 60 dribbles before he takes a jumper or makes a move towards the basket, and it takes the pressure off Jimmy and Bam. That game against Milwaukee was beautiful because you saw Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, everybody flourish. One, they were getting good shots. They were getting put in their spots. And two, I feel like Jimmy and Bam didn't have that. Like in the finals, that's why we lost, was there was fatigue because they had to do so much. And Jimmy Butler is just that guy that he pushed through it, right? So Jimmy Butler is like superhuman. So, I guess Jimmy Butler is an anomaly in this case. But like taking the pressure off of these players. Now, excuse me, that's not to say they're terrible passers or anything like that and like they can't play make. Of course they can. They just can't do it the way Kyle Lowry does. And, bro, the way that team flowed, right, from offense to defense, when you don't have turnovers and that team plays half-court offense, organized, and doesn't have to defend the break off a stupid turnover, they play so well. Just watch the Milwaukee game and the Indiana game, and you'll see the difference in the flow between
you're 100%
offense and
right.
defense.
Even on the offensive end, I mean, you look at the Milwaukee game in particular, it's incredible how many fast break points they got. I mean, that team, and I think it's going to make a big difference because if you look at the last 2 years of the Miami Heat, they focused a lot on half court offense. right? So it was a lot of sets and a lot of, there wasn't a lot of easy baskets. And I think that's what Kyle Lowry brings to the table. If you look at the games, Kyle Lowry gets the ball under the basket, goes right over to Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler on the other side. And even if it's not an open basket, even if it's just advancing the ball, it opens up spots for other people. And I think that you're right. And on the defensive side, I mean, Kyle Lowry is a great defender. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, we're both agreeing on this one. I think Kyle Lowry is very important to this team and the ceiling, really, like where we imagine them going. Where do you have them? Actually, interesting. Where do you have them as far as in the East? Ranked.
Where do I have the Miami Heat?
Ranked, yeah, in the East.
Oh yeah, bro. I have us going to the finals. I have Lakers and Miami Heat finals.
Okay, but where do you have them as far as like? Okay, so you're talking. Okay.
The Nets with the Nets without Kyrie Irving, I think only the Bucks are better than us, but I think we beat the Bucks in a 7-game series.
Okay.
I think the Miami Heat are the best equipped team for a 7-game series. I think that before having a playmaker off the bench. If we have a playmaker like a Kyle Lowry type guy off the bench to do the same thing that Kyle Lowry does, just like take the pressure off, and it could be a scorer too. It doesn't even have to be like a great, but it just has to be a guy that has a type of Kyle Lowry esque vibe of I'm gonna get you in the right spot. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Come on, bro. Yo, if they bought out Goran Dragic and we signed Goran Dragic and win and win the championship, I mean, dude, I'd fly to Slovenia with him to celebrate. It's what, like,
dude. I'm glad you say that because Goran. Listen, man. I think Goran's history in Miami is incredible because for a guy who, didn't truly nothing crazy as far as stats. Exactly right. That's what I was getting to. Nothing crazy. He's one of the most beloved players we've ever witnessed. Mm-hmm. I think he's, first of all, great guy. But on top of that, I think one of my things that I will forever, ever, ever, ever have an asterisk on for me and will always love to see is in the bubble. If you did not watch Goran Dragic in the bubble, you're missing out on some amazing basketball. And the fact that Goran, poor guy, man, got injured in game 1 of the NBA Finals and was not the same after that when he came back in those finals, or actually, well, maybe even the following year. But that Goran Dragic is why we love him, because he's insane and he has the biggest balls. And I love Kyle Lowry, but I miss Goji. I really do.
Yeah, Goran, the only thing I would say is he's a primarily a scorer. I don't think he's got the Kyle Lowry thing in him about running an offense.
No, you're right.
But
no, sorry, say that Lowry's truly a point guard, right? Like as much as we love Goran, he wasn't a point guard.
Exactly. He was more of a shooting guard in the point guard's body.
Kind of a combo,
He didn't get the height. Poor guy. But it worked out for him. We haven't seen a guy that like shoots, especially for his height, contested shots so well. Like Goran shoots a lot of contested shots really well.
Yeah,
like,
he does.
That's one of his best abilities. But moving on to the most important thing about what I was talking about was the Miami Heat are going to be. I predicted the Miami Heat are going to make the Miami Finals.
The Miami Finals.
The NBA Finals.
Maybe.
So I think up and down, you look at the roster, you start looking at guys like PJ Tucker, Marcus Morris. You start looking at Bam Adebayo. You start looking at Jimmy Butler. Duncan Robinson is improving. Tyler Hero is improving in front of our eyes. We have I was about to say Kyler Hero, Kyle Lowry. I really like Gabe Vincent defensively. Just loose. I'm here for it.
Yurtseven,
he has to improve a little bit. Listen. You gotta get, bro. Dwayne Dedman is still better than Omer Yurtseven. Okay, so Dwayne Dedman is in my heart right now. So Omer Yurtseven in the playoffs, I'm not gonna play Omer Yurtseven, and I'm not gonna throw him on like an important big man because he's gonna get cooked. But I think that the Miami Heat in a 7-game series, one, defensively, I don't think any team up and down 1 through 13, what I just named can match defensively. 2, in today's league, the number one thing is pretty much perimeter play. I think Miami is best equipped to defend the perimeter better than any team. They can switch to a 2-3 zone. They can play man-to-man. Shit, they can go to a 3-2 zone if they feel like it. They can go 4-1. They can start making shit up. The heat flare pancake. They can play whatever defense. And 3, though, what I really, really like, the versatility in switching. The ability of Bam Adebayo to be able to switch on a guard, Marcus Morris to be able to switch on a guard, PJ Tucker being able to switch on a guard. You switch those guys onto a screen, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero. They're not afraid to get like a big man and get posted up. They're not afraid to get down there. Jimmy Butler wasn't afraid to get down with Sabonis. I like that. Even though we lost, I saw the defensive effort and the defensive flashes that I expected from this team. And especially what I love about this team, again, Kyle Lowry takes that pressure off. That lets Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and all these players not just flow on offense, but the defense gets to flow. Because again, you don't have those turnovers. Then we go score because Kyle Lowry's running beautiful offense, and then we go turn around and play our great half-court set defense, not have to run the break behind some guys. And last but not least, what I'll say, and I'll let you say a couple of things about the Miami Heat. I think we have another young core type year where Kendrick Nunn was really good. Duncan Robinson was really good. Tyler Hero. I think Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, not much as a scorer, but I think Gabe Vincent will see him as a. Have you seen? You've heard of Davion Mitchell?
Yeah,
it's my new guy. So I love Davion Mitchell, one of the greatest defenders. Like I love that. You know that. Obviously. You would know that. But where was I? Gabe Vincent. I think he.
Oh yeah, if you're watching this and you don't know, in real life, we might get into some tussles because of defense.
Oh yeah, we get into like UFC like fight. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah. It gets real. And then when we're done, we just go have lunch.
But Gabe Vincent defensively, I think can make like a huge impact on this team. And I think, his defense will turn into offense. If he gets a little jumper, he can become a spot up. I don't think he'll be a crazy scorer. I think like 9 to 10. But who's the other guy? Max Strus. Max Strus is the guy I think that's going to make the big leap. Defensively, I think he's like a Duncan Robinson. He gets a lot of bullshit calls called on him, which I hate that about both of them because it just happens to be they have the same play style and they get the same type of calls called them. And, just a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
But I think he's going to have a big year, and I think Miami's going to have that when you see we have, the best scouting. Oh, Omer Yurtseven as well. I think he'll have a good year. But I just don't think he's going to be – you mentioned him and the way, it was the tone you talked about. It sounded like he was going to average 15. I think he's going to average like 9 or 8.
I was telling you that I like that this team is deep because the reason why I like a guy like that is because I don't think last year, as much as I today maybe, yes, he's been doing really good in Toronto. But, for example, last season, you really couldn't count on Precious very much. And I think that if Dedmon were to, I don't know, get injured, I'm not saying it's like, oh my God, we got a savior, but we have a guy who could play basketball and who could step up and be a decent NBA player. And that's Yurtseven. He could be way better than that in the future, but as far as right now, that's what I meant. But you're right. Maybe let me lower my tone on that one a little bit.
All right. So I have a very, very, very important question. Who would you like to see? Now, of course, I know Victor. Oh shit! I didn't even mention Victor Oladipo is going to be back playing defense. I keep forgetting that
it's easy to forget. Team. Let me tell you, half of the NBA media does not even remember Victor Oladipo is alive. All right, whenever they talk about the Miami Heat, listen. The thing is, we don't know. The guy could come back, get injured again. The guy could come back and be nothing. But if Victor Oladipo is 60 to 70% of the player he was, that's a big addition to this roster, especially coming off the bench.
You know what I mean, dude? I saw him play defense like the first game, and I was like, bro, what? We're winning the chip. And then he got injured, and I was like, bro, we're not going anywhere. Victor Oladipo, like...
Think about it. But going back to what you said, think about it. Think about, let's say you're going up against Brooklyn. You're going up against Brooklyn. There's 7 seconds left. They have the ball, right? Here's our lineup. Here's our defensive lineup. Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo. I'm dying with that lineup. I'm telling you, that lineup is insane as far as defense.
So as far as Victor Oladipo, would you want Miami, if you had the option, if you're the Miami Heat and you're doing really, really good, would you let him sit extra time just for him to heal?
Oh,
I
100%.
100%.
Oh,
Okay. Okay.
100%.
I thought the
If
same
if
thing.
if a doctor comes and goes, hey, this man needs to sit out until game one of the first round, and then he'll be himself. I'm like, all right, whatever. This team, as it stands
I
right
don't think
now,
so because I don't think so. He's got to get some games in
no, he's gonna get
before.
some games. I'm obviously exaggerating. My point
Well,
is,
yeah, I get okay.
it's more about I think that
Don't
this
exaggerate
team.
on this podcast. No, I'm
Oh,
kidding. I'm kidding.
this is the non-exaggerating podcast. My bad, my bad. I'm new, but no, I guess what I'm trying to say is that this team is built already enough for a good regular season. Probably being 1, 2, or 3, depending on how that works out. But I think, yeah, he doesn't need to come back right away. I think right now, I was listening to Ethan Skolnick from 5 Reasons Sports, and I believe he said January was the timeline right now, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see.
Final thoughts. So I said finals. Where do you think the Miami Heat will end up? Albeit just so it's hypothetical in healthy Victor Oladipo will give 80% because I think let me say why 80%. I don't think
Right,
he'll physically be 80%. I think he'll be like 60, 65. But I think he'll be 80% because what we need from Victor Oladipo is more defensively and running an offense. And now that I think about it, I do want to mention this. I do think Victor Oladipo is a guy, and you brought up a good point. Now, here's why I think this is a little bit of a thing we can bring up. Victor Oladipo reminds me a little bit of like a Drew Holiday in the sense of they're both great defensive wings. Now, Drew Holiday is miles better than Victor Oladipo. I do
yeah,
have to say that on the defensive end. But Victor Oladipo is definitely an elite defender. Drew Holiday is just, a god. But he can run the offense like Drew Holiday does what he has to do to get his teammates involved and to run the offense smoothly, but he's always like looking to score more. I think that's what
right.
Oladipo will do. And I think with the new Tyler Newman, I think we're gonna have a great season ahead of us. But yeah, so where do you think the Miami Heat will end up?
Okay, so the homer in me says NBA champions, right? Of course, every season, NBA champion. But on a serious note, I don't know. I don't know because I think that we have good teams. I think there's a lot of really good teams, and specifically Brooklyn and Milwaukee. And I'm not saying they're necessarily better. I'm just saying these are good teams, you know? So I can't sit here and tell you for a fact I believe this is going to happen because I don't know. George, you froze up on me. Oh, are you back? Are we back?
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
We're back. All right.
We're back.
So if I had to say right now, right now I still got Milwaukee.
Wow.
Listen, listen to the amount of praise that I gave Giannis earlier. Listen to the amount of praise I gave Giannis earlier. Listen to the amount of praise you just gave Drew Holiday. And the amount of praise that Chris Middleton did not get from us in this pod, but totally deserves. Right? I'm not saying they're necessarily better. I'm just saying these teams, I think this teams could have an amazing 7-game series. And anybody can come out of it. Brooklyn has probably the best player amongst all of them. Oh, no, the best player amongst all of them, Kevin Durant. All right. I just don't believe in Brooklyn. I don't believe in in the rest of the players. I don't think it makes any sense. Same conversation we were having with the Lakers, right? I think the best player besides Kevin Durant on that team and James Harden is Patty Mills. I love Patty Mills. I think he's great. But I don't think Blake Griffin's helping you. I don't know what the hell's going on with Joe Harris. All right. I don't know. I think that LaMarcus Aldridge, I'm so happy he's been playing basketball again. But I don't see how he makes any sense for that team. I don't see how Paul Millsap makes any sense for that team. I don't understand. And if you've seen the last couple games, you see it. Doesn't make sense. So that's why I don't even mention Brooklyn, and I'm mentioning more Milwaukee and Miami. And well, I'm gonna go with Milwaukee on this one, but I want the Heat to be there. But right now I got Milwaukee as we speak. Even though we just they just destroyed them by 40 points, which was beautiful to watch. But a healthy Drew, healthy Giannis, healthy Middleton, rest of that roster, Brook Lopez. Portis. I don't know. They're a good roster. But before I end, we do have the better coach, and that can change the series. So,
not to mention we just have the better city in general, but we're not going to get
yeah,
into
we're not getting into that right now. This is a basketball podcast, not a city podcast. So, at least that's what I think it is, right?
Big difference. We breed people like Chad Ochocinco. They breed people like Jeffrey Dahmer. No, so all right,
okay.
listen. I think
that's I think that's it. That's it.
I think that's a wrap. Thank you everybody for listening to the Just Hoop Show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Jose Rodriguez and Rico de Risco for showing up to the podcast. We appreciate you showing up, your time, and using it up to speak to us, the community. Thank you very much. Many blessings to you. Don't forget to meditate, everybody. Don't forget to drink your water, and always remember, just hoops. We out. Hey, man, that was dope.